So let's look firstly at how the soul's designed. The soul itself is an entity. So I'll just draw it like a ball, like an entity. And it itself has been designed with specific limitations. It's limited to being human, firstly. So there's no God in the soul. It's just a human soul, a creation of God, but a human soul unique in its design. In other words, there's no other being in the universe that I've seen. Of course, there's parts of the universe I have not seen, so I can't tell you what's there. All I can do is tell you what I've seen. But in the universe I've seen, I've never seen like an alien soul. Like there's only ever like the human soul, the same soul that you have. It does exist on other planets, but they're all the same design. Right? And if you think about it, you can sort of see why that would be the case, because if God made a perfect design, why would he change it? Makes sense, doesn't it? You make a perfect design, you're not going to change it. You'd only change it if you made a mistake. So the fundamental design of the human soul is the same wherever you go, like in the universe. And in every place where there's a similar sort of process of living that we will go through in a minute, every place that has that process of living, it is the soul that's governed by that process of living, and the souls are the same. The soul is duplex in its nature, in the sense that it's sexually duplex. The quick way of saying is that it's male and female, but that's not an accurate way of saying it, really. The accurate way of saying it is that it has two halves that are sexual complements. Now, how those sexual complements operate is going to be very much dependent upon the degree of masculinity and femininity in those complements. So, but they are sexually duplex in the sense that the two halves are sexually attracted to each other. They are joined to each other through sexual connections. So you could call it a sexual duplex, the soul. Now, many times in the past, what I've done is, written it for expedient's sake as feminine and masculine, or masculine and feminine qualities in these two halves, but it's not an accurate way to say it really, because at the end of the day, there are sometimes the soul will split into two male bodies, and sometimes the soul will split into two female bodies, and there's a reason for that. But they are still sexually duplex, and they're still sexually attracted to each other. And so fundamentally, you could say each soul has been created unique. In its nature, so in its personality. Or you could call it its nature. It has an inbuilt personality, which is undeveloped at this point, but has a tendency towards development in a certain way. And it also has what you would classify as instinctual and instinct. In fact, every living creature God has designed all have instincts. They all have laws that govern those instincts. So the law, which is being created by God as well as a framework, is designed as a framework or a structure in which the living creature can exist. And so the living creature itself, whether it's a human or a lesser creature, the living creature itself has to be designed to have instinct so that it works instinctually in harmony with laws that pertain to its survival. Does that make sense? So your body instinctually has been designed with a set of laws that governs its survival. your spirit body is the same, and more importantly, your soul, which is the thing that defines those two bodies, is all instinctually governed as well by laws. So when I say instinctually, what I mean by that is that there are things you don't have to do and you don't have to know about, but your soul will operate a certain way based upon the instinct that it has. Right? So in that regard, you're like a creature of any kind which has an instinctual nature. Now, the instinctual nature is required in order to be able to live in a universe that interacts with the soul itself. So the soul needs to be instinctually in harmony with that universe in order to maintain its own survival. Does that make sense? It needs to be created in such a way that it can function in the universe without there being a need for you to learn something in order to function in the universe. Right? So there are certain instincts that it has, and we will go through those instincts later as to the fundamental instincts that it has. But the main thing to bear in mind is that it's, you could say, pre-programmed, if you were thinking of it like a computer. It's pre-programmed to operate in a certain manner in order to continue to survive in the universe in which it's been placed. And in fact, the soul itself has been built from the universal, there's the infinitesimally small particle that God has used to build everything, and the soul has been built with the same particle. And it's been built with the same particles that your body has been built with and your spirit body has been built with. There are, but unfortunately, no human has ever seen one of those particles because they're so small. You can't even see them. And you can't, and no matter what measuring apparatus any human in the spirit world or in the soul universe has created to measure those particles, we haven't been able to. That's how small they are. But basically, the instinct of the soul is there so that the soul can operate or interoperate, you could say, with the universe in which it's been placed. Make sense? So these are the fundamental characteristics of the soul. It has been given one quality which is not personality or nature, but which is a part of the ability to become self-aware. So it begins with not being self-aware, but it has the ability, it's able to become self-aware. And in fact, it must become self-aware. It's forced into becoming self-aware. And the process that it forces it to become self-aware is the process of incarnation. Now, incarnation is just a fancy word given to the process of the soul joining to something else in order to experience the universe. And there are parts of the universe. There are two parts of the universe that are provided for the education, and we need to talk about the universe at some point. But the two parts of the universe that are provided for the education of the soul, you could call it the preschool part of the soul, the preschool part of the education of the soul, and then you could call it the primary school part of the soul. The preschool part of the soul is the earth. And the primary school part of the soul is the spirit life. And those two parts of those two lives, you could call them, the life that you have now and the life you have after you die, they're just all educating you to the point where you can be an adult. But given the fact that there's an infinite progression, I often think of it educating you to the point where you can walk. From the soul perspective, walk, where you can start to really engage your life fully. And the process of incarnation is a process of, the whole purpose of it is to individualize the soul. What that means is that for you to become aware, to become self-aware and to recognise yourself as an individual. The process of incarnation being that it joins to the bodies in order for you to go through an experience so that you become aware that you are you. And you become aware, you become a self-aware being. This individualisation process is complete the time you were conceived. So the moment you're conceived, you are now an individual having an experience that begins to be conscious. It's a growing experience where consciousness grows, but it begins at the point of incarnation. And that begins at the point of conception. The soul is the thing that is learning, and the bodies are the things that are growing. And even in the body's growing, the soul is learning. So the soul, of which it consists of the two halves, is the real you. That's the real human. Your body and your spirit body are not the real you. They are apparatus. You could call them attributes. You could call them, attachments that the soul uses to experience itself. And when I say the soul, I'm using that word very loosely here because it's really the half of the soul that needs those things in order to have an experience. And we need to say this is talking now about the sexual duplex. The sexual duplex, the way it works is the sexual duplex you have to become aware that you are a sexual duplex in order to become aware of the soul. So you have to become aware that there is a you and there's another other half of you. Right? And the way God's designed the entire progression of your life on earth, in terms of the instinctual progression of your life, is to force you into becoming aware of the other half of you. So every single soul who's ever lived and ever will live will come to the point of understanding that they're a half of the soul and that there is another half of themselves out there somewhere. And that is forced upon every soul. In other words, when I say forced upon, it's probably the law determines this will happen for you no matter what. There's no exceptions.